Here we are mocking up the frame plates that we purchased from WFO Concepts just to see how they fit first before we do anything else. Now I'm actually cutting a bulge that's in the frame rail there that needs to be removed in order to clear the coil bucket. I'm using a grinder and a cutoff wheel to cut that bulge off. I'd scribed there with a Sharpie the curve that the factory bulge had, and I'm just cutting that off with a cutoff wheel first. So the sparks were bouncing off of the inside of the fender and burning my head and neck, so I have a t-shirt wrapped around my head to prevent the stinging sparks from hurting me too much.
Want to see what it looks like?
We had supposed that maybe the piece that was cut out could be flipped around and put back into the frame to fill it, but it didn't work.
It's not shaped right. Since it goes up in this way, it's now going the wrong way.
Yeah.
The hanging Chad is in Florida? What does that even mean?
I think Florida was where they had that issue for the Bush-Gore election.
Maybe.
It's bad nice.
After it was welded, yeah, actually.
Okay.
You wouldn't even know it was. It actually would have been better. Okay. Ow.
Is that sharp?
Hot. Okay, so if I tack weld that there first, then I can really pull on this and get it in place and tighten and pull it out. Okay. Metal that's been bent always does this. Yeah, that's not bad, dude.
This picture shows that the coil bucket, when at 90 degrees, leaves a little bit of a gap to the frame. You can see that I've got a 3/16 inch thick piece of metal slipped in there right now for this picture to show. But it's extremely important that the coil bucket is welded to the frame at 90 degrees. This ensures that the coil spring spacing stays correct for the axle, and it will prevent the coil spring from chafing against the frame during the suspension cycle.
Hey, Will?
Yeah.
For that reason, I welded the coil buckets to the frame strengthening plates first. That allowed me to weld them from the backside also and fill in that 3/16 of a gap on that backside. This is where I actually have the frame plates tacked on and showing how the coil buckets were set up. You can see that the coil bucket is set with the top of the coil bucket 3 inches above the top of the frame, measured from the center of the axle center line. You can also see in this picture the Sharpie marks that we made. That was made on the frame plate before we welded the coil bucket on. We mocked the frame plate onto the frame first, found level to the vehicle and marked that with that level reference line, and then determined the axle center line where we wanted it, and the next line is the coil spring center line, because the coil springs actually sit forward of the axle just a little bit, and that marks where the center of the coil spring goes, and that's how we knew where to weld on the coil bucket when we had the frame plate on the workbench to weld it.
There you go.
That's a nasty gouge in my... But you know what? I don't care. A couple of gouges will disappear in the paint. Hey! You want a cigar? You sure? Okay. Well, we're plugging away. You got this side. This one side over here pretty well welded, so. I mean, I originally was going to say Mafia and Fortunato, but it sounded too Italian. But for some reason, Guccismo works though.
Guccismo.
We get so much done with the lift. Feder joins the Robot Mafia and thinks, what's my nickname gonna be? Maybe I should make it Clamps just to mess with the guy. He like lost his mind.
Just a little stitching here. Zap, zap, zap.
Halfway.
Cool.
One side down. Oh, my thing's clear over there.